Alrighty, we're on.
Flight, Hudson, Hut! Element 1, report.
All present and accounted for, sir.
Element 2, report.
All present and accounted for, sir.
Pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome to Military Studies. This is week 3. Today we have a great treat. We have retired Lieutenant Colonel Dick Jonas, who's a Vietnam veteran in the United States Air Force, and actually he is a war hero. And I like to call that. I don't know if you would say that as a war hero, but he's been awarded for his bravery in Vietnam, and also after he got out of Vietnam, he came back to America and finished his Air Force career. I call him a hero also because he helped start up a junior ROTC here in Arizona, just like myself. And then also in his retirement has become the the military minstrel balladeer of America. So this week we're going to have Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday dedicated to Vietnam and him. And I encourage you guys to engage him and ask him questions about Vietnam and some of the experiences that you'll probably never have any chance of doing. Colonel Jonas, you have the floor.
Thank you, Colonel Peoples. I'm a retired Air Force fighter pilot. I don't really think of myself as retired. Once a fighter pilot, always a fighter pilot. It's like being a Marine, you know. I was born in, if I can have my the second slide actually.
All righty.
Okay, this is me. This picture was taken like 2 weeks ago. Actually, I'm sitting on the canopy rail in the back seat of an F-4 at Ubon Royal Thai Air Force Base in Thailand. I'll talk to you more about Thailand and what I was doing over there. But let me give you some of my roots first of all, if I can have the next slide, please. This is a picture of my house, my home place, where I grew up down in northern Florida a long, long time ago. Next slide. Here's a map. There's the, this is Florida. Hurricane Isaac is down here somewhere, rushing madly, we hope, somewhere west of New Orleans.
Actually, seriously guys, this is the hurricane, exactly where the hurricane's coming, right?
That's right, that's right. It's a beam, just about a beam talent now, I think. When it's going west-northwest. But anyhow, there's the Georgia line. This little town in Valdosta, Georgia is where I went to college, and I'll talk to you more about that later. This is Interstate 75. This is Interstate 10. This is Tallahassee, the capital city of the state of Florida. And my home is about 20 miles southwest of the intersection of the two interstates. It is right here. It's hard to read, but it says Hillreath. That's where I was born and raised. I was the, you can leave that one up for a while. I was the fourth child of 8 children born in my family. There was 5 girls and 3 boys, and I was the oldest boy. Still am. I started school when I was 6 years old, and went all 12 years to the same school building. I mean, it was a 2-story thing. We had about 600 students in it, in all 12 grades. And grades 1 through 6 met downstairs on the first floor. Grades 7 through 12 met upstairs. And I always thought that going to high school meant that I was going to go upstairs and be in the 7th grade. Rode school bus to school all the time. When I wasn't going to school, I worked on my dad's farm. He had a little 20-acre farm, and he raised corn and peanuts and tobacco, which was a nasty job. But after a while, he got out of the farming business and opened up a wood shop, and he began to make tobacco sticks. They'd hang the tobacco on them and put those in the curing barn. And then he got to building survey stakes for civil engineers, surveyors, you know, people that lay out highways, bridges, and stuff like that, buildings. And so I worked in Dad's wood shop for a while. Actually, I kind of lived the life of Tom Sawyer. You know who Tom Sawyer is? Yes, sir. How many Mark Twain fans we got in here besides me? My favorite all-American writer. But my boyhood was like camped and fished and swam, and just had a wonderful time. The Swanee River rises in the Okefenokee Swamp up here in South Georgia, and it flows down and comes around the western side of my home county, Swanee County. And down here near my home, there's another smaller river that empties into the Swanee, goes on down to the Gulf of Mexico. But above that intersection, there's another small river called Ichtucknee. It's an Indian word which means, last time I looked, clear water. And it's a beautiful, beautiful little river. But I call it my river because that's where I had most of the fun that I had when I was a boy. I graduated from high school in 1957 and went to college for 1 year to a church-related school down in Tampa. Tampa's down here somewhere. Then I dropped out of school and I got married and started a family and got me a job as a disc jockey. I was a disc jockey at 3 different radio stations for 6 years. The first station I worked at was in my home county, Swanee County, in the county seat, live on WNER, and I did a rock and roll show at the country music show. Loved it. It was a lot of fun. No money in it, though. The next job I had was out in Arkansas. I was out there visiting friends one time, and I went down to the local radio station, KWAK, the 250-watt voice of the Grand Prairie, the rice and duck capital of the world. Ergo, the call letters, quack. I was there for about a year and a half, and then I came back to Valdosta, Georgia, moved back to Valdosta, and got a job with, it's up here, with WGAF. It was, quote-unquote, a good music station. The only thing I had known about music up at that time was rock and roll and country music. But I learned my music perspectives got somewhat broader working for 3 years at that radio station. I learned to appreciate big band music like Hugo Winterhalter and Stan Kenton, and choral groups like the Roger Wagner Chorale and Midge Miller. While I was there, I really, really wanted to be a military flyer. But I was married with 2 kids and a third one before I finished, before we left Valdosta. And nobody was hiring married guys in the military. So I went back to college and got my degree, and when I approached finishing up college, the Air Force recruiter would come out to the student center, and he'd slide into a booth beside me and say, "Hey, sign up with the Air Force. I'll get you commissioned. I'll get you into pilot training. I'll even see you come back here to Moody Air Force Base for pilot training." Moody was about 20 miles north of Valdosta. And I knew in my heart, by that time I was 26 years old, I knew in my heart he was lying. Recruiters will lie. But I wanted it so bad, I signed up. And you know what happened? Exactly what he said was going to happen. I got my commission. I went to Air Force Officer Training School out in Texas. And I think we're up to about the next slide. And I went back to Moody Air Force Base, near where I had gone to college, and my family lived just over the state line down in North Florida, to pilot training. This is a patch I wore on my sleeve when I was a student pilot, the 35 52nd Pilot Training Squadron, known as the Rams. I was there for a year. It took a year to learn how to fly airplanes. I flew the T-41, which looks like a Cessna 172, the T-37, which is no longer on active duty, it's been replaced by the T-6, and the T-38, the Great White Rocket. Wonderful airplane. First airplane I went supersonic in was a T-38. And they'd take us up, and on our dollar ride, the first ride in the airplane, we go up to 41,000 feet, dip the nose over a little bit, light the afterburner, and she'd creep on up to about Mach 1.1. But you can come back saying, I am now a supersonic jet pilot. This was the patch that my class wore, 67 Charlie, which meant the 3rd pilot training class to start it in fiscal 1967. Well, that was a long time ago. Next slide. And the day finally, magic day finally came in October 1966, when I pinned on those silver wings. I used to, when nobody was looking, I'd be in my uniform, and I'd go find a mirror in the bathroom or the bedroom or someplace, and I'd just stand there and admire those wings. I was so proud of them. The assignment I got out of pilot training was F4 P-Wizzo. P meant pilot. At first, when the Air Force started flying the F4, they made it a 2-pilot airplane with an old head, older guy in the front seat, and a newbie like myself and a bunch of other guys in the back seat. So my orders read PWISO F4 pipeline Southeast Asia. That meant that I was going to learn how to fly the back seat of the F4 and then go to Southeast Asia to the Vietnam War. And that's kind of what happened. I went, on the way, I went TDY to Fairchild Air Force Base in Washington State for survival school. And then I went down to Davis-Monthan Air Force Base in Tucson to learn the radar, which is a major job the backseat pilot had in the F4, was operating the radar. And from there to George Air Force Base, California to PWISO flight training. Got about 100 hours of flying training time in the back seat. While I was there, I witnessed for the first time an airplane crash. Actually, I didn't see him fly into the ground, but I saw it just after he impacted. We had a flight of 4 Phantoms. We're headed out to Leech Lake, which is north of Barstow, California. And we were going to do some tactical training. We had a gun, a Su-16 20mm gun strapped to the belly of the airplane. We had 6 750 dummy bombs, sand-filled bombs. They were not explosive. But they looked like a 750-pound bomb, and they were as heavy as a 750-pound bomb. And with them hanging on the airplane, your airplane handled like it was a real, honest-to-goodness load of bombs. The game plan was for us to go out and do some what we call road reconnaissance, or road recce, where you go flying down a road, you know, and if you find a target of opportunity like a truck carrying ammunition or people or whatever, you pop up, drop a bomb on it. So we were recceing a mountain road there, and 1 and 2 were out front. I was in the pit with number 4 aircraft, and the leader, who was an experienced flight instructor, had already had a tour of Vietnam. He said, okay, there's our simulated target down there. He pops up, rolls in, comes off dry like he was supposed to. Number 2 pops up and goes in, and I had my head in the cockpit. I heard the guy call in, and then I looked over the side, and there was a big ugly streak of flame and smoke along that road. And I thought, oh boy, somebody's in trouble. He's dropped his napalm. We're supposed to drop anything. But as quickly I remembered that we weren't carrying napalm. And so, you know, it was abundantly obvious that something was amiss. The flight leader tried calling him on the radio about 3 times, no answer, and it was all over. That's the closest I ever came to puking in the cockpit. I almost threw my cookies. While I was at George Air Force Base, I got promoted to first lieutenant. I was proud of that. Got a little oomph in the paycheck. And then, before I went overseas, they sent me to Homestead Air Force Base down in Florida, below Miami, to go to water survival training. Because we anticipated doing flying combat missions in Vietnam and other places in Southeast Asia that we would probably do a lot of overwater flying. And if we ever had to punch out and be in the water, we needed to know how to handle ourselves there. First time I ever had any raw fish was at that school. There was 8 of us in an 8-man life raft sitting out there going through the exercise so we'd know what it was like. And some kid caught a fish about that long, took his knife out and scaled him, and cut him up in little pieces, and I had a chunk of that. And it wasn't all like that. Now, today, having spent a lot of time in the Far East, I am a sushi freak. Mary and I try to go over to one of the sushi restaurants here in town and kill ourselves about once a month, sushi. Then after water survival, I went TDY to Clark Air Force Base in the Philippine Islands to go to jungle survival school. That was interesting. I got acquainted with some insects and other types of jungle animal life that I had never seen before in my life. We spent about 3 nights actually out in the jungle. We had classroom time, but we spent about 3 nights out in the jungle. And we'd all been out there and no bath, no shave, and we all felt terrible. And we came upon this little rushing mountain stream. And the instructor said, all right, guys, peel them off and get your razors out. We're going to take a bath and shave. The best feeling I ever had in my life after that bath and that shave. Then I went on over to Ubon, Royal Thai Air Force Base, Thailand.
I want to show them a picture here of the F4, just so they see what that's like. You see the back seat. See the back seat? How much visibility does the guy in the back seat have? You're looking up and right and left, that's about it. You can't look forward at all.
Had several names. We called it Big Ugly. After I got out of the airplane and into another one, I heard guys calling it the Rhino, because it just looked big and beefy, you know. Good airplane, though, good, Mach 2.2. I've had it up to 1.95 on quite twice speed of sound that I was aware of. Anyhow, I was assigned to the 8th Tank Fighter Wing. There's the door to the command post and the wing headquarters right there. And my squadron was the 433rd Tank Fighter Squadron. Next slide. Oh, this is the emblem of the 8th Fighter Wing was a wolf pack. And this is the patch that I wore on my flight suit for the squadron, Satan's Angels. Outstanding outfit. I flew 125 combat missions over a period of 9 months. And 31 of them was in Route Pack 6. I'll show you more about this in what we do tomorrow. I'll have some maps of Vietnam so you can tell better. But Route Pack 6 was up right around the Hanoi area, and was probably the most heavily defended sky of any war up to that point. I flew 24 more missions in Laos, and I flew one mission in South Vietnam.